Scarlett James had always been a woman with a vision. At 30, she had the kind of confidence that came not from age, but from persistence. Her passion project, an educational program for underprivileged teens, was ready for the next level. All she needed was funding. And the most promising opportunity came in the form of the Horizon Grant. Competitive, prestigious, and known for changing lives. The interview for the first round was held at a private building just outside the city. Tastefully modern, with white stone walls and tall glass windows. Scarlett arrived early, dressed deliberately to impress, yet subtly enough to remain professional. Her outfit was carefully selected. A beige blazer over a crisp ivory silk blouse that hinted at the curves beneath, paired with a form-fitting skirt that ended just above her knees. Her legs, encased in sheer nude stockings, ended in soft beige heels. Beneath the blouse, her lingerie was lace, champagne-colored and delicate, chosen more for self-confidence than anyone else's eyes. Her long, wavy chestnut hair was pinned half up, emphasizing her sharp cheekbones and almond-shaped brown eyes. The man she met at the interview was not what she had expected. "Scarlett James?" he asked, standing to shake her hand. "I'm Michael Vincent. I'll be your lead interviewer today." He was striking, tall, maybe in his early 40s, with sharp features softened by a hint of grey at his temples. His navy suit was clearly tailored, his shirt unbuttoned at the collar in that effortlessly expensive way. His eyes were pale blue, cool and evaluating, but there was a warmth behind them, an interest. Their conversation began formally. Scarlett walked him through her proposal, her goals, her pilot results. He listened carefully, asked precise questions, and smiled, slightly but unmistakably, when she responded with enthusiasm and intellect. After about 40 minutes, he leaned back in his chair, fingers interlaced. "You've clearly put thought into this. I like it." "Thank you. It means a lot to hear that," she replied, straightening slightly. "But I think I'd like to understand your perspective more deeply, off the record." She tilted her head. "How do you mean?" Michael's smile widened but remained polite. "This Friday evening, there's a private wine tasting I'm hosting for a few people involved in the foundation. I think it'd be a perfect place for us to talk more about your project." Casual setting. No pressure. Just ideas. Scarlett hesitated, watching his face. There was no overt suggestion, no inappropriate wording, but something in his tone made her heart quicken. "I suppose that would be helpful," she replied, forcing herself to sound even. "Excellent," he said, handing her a card with the address. "Come as you are. Bring nothing. Just yourself and that mind of yours." Friday arrived faster than she'd expected. She had chosen a sleek navy blue dress that clung to her figure but remained tasteful, with a modest neckline and a low back. Her lingerie matched the tone, navy with gold lace, almost too beautiful to be hidden. The wine bar was dimly lit and private, located in the basement of an upscale building. Michael greeted her with a warm, casual charm. Dressed in a charcoal grey shirt with the top button undone, sleeves rolled up, revealing tanned, veined forearms. The evening flowed easily. They spoke of philosophy, education, and taste, of wine and of life. Scarlett was surprised by how drawn she felt, how quickly their banter became playful. He poured her a glass of red with a slow, practiced motion. "Try this one," he said, stepping behind her to hand her the glass. As she took it, his fingers brushed hers. Intentionally or not, she couldn't tell. She looked up. He was close. The air was thick with warmth and notes of cherry, oak, and something far more intoxicating. "You have a very focused energy," he said, voice lowered. His hand gently reached for a strand of her hair, brushing it behind her shoulder. The gesture was slow, intentional. His fingers grazed the skin of her neck, sending a small shiver down her spine. Scarlett didn't step back. Their eyes met, and time seemed to slow. He leaned in slightly, not enough to touch her lips, but enough for her to feel his breath. Then, holding her gaze, he lifted the glass to her lips and tilted it gently. She sipped, never looking away. The moment stretched, unspoken, delicate, charged. He stepped back with a smile that carried just a hint of satisfaction. "I like the way you taste," he said, then added with a smirk, "I meant the wine, of course." She laughed, light and soft, but her hands trembled slightly as she set down the glass. When the evening ended, he walked her to the door. "I'll let the board know what I think," he said, "and what you deserve." "Thank you," she replied, her voice quieter than usual. He leaned down, brushing a light kiss to her cheek, close enough that his lips grazed the edge of her jaw. "Good night, Scarlett." She didn't sleep much that night, not from guilt, but from wondering what exactly she had agreed to play into. The weekend slipped by in a dreamlike blur. Scarlett's days were spent with her husband Sam, who seemed oblivious to the subtle changes in her. In the evenings, she replayed the moments with Michael Vincent. His steady gaze, the way his fingers had lingered at her neck, the slow, deliberate press of a wineglass to her lips. She caught herself smiling at the memory, warmth blooming beneath her skin. By Tuesday, her nerves began to fray. She hadn't heard back from the Horizon Grant Committee, and every new email made her heart skip. On Wednesday morning, as she checked her inbox with her first cup of coffee, she saw it. Subject: Horizon Grant. Next steps. Scarlett's breath caught. She clicked, half afraid, half hopeful. "Dear Miss James, thank you for your impressive presentation. The committee would like to invite you for a follow-up interview with our lead advisor, Michael Vincent, at his home office this Thursday evening. Please confirm your availability. We look forward to your response." She could hardly believe it. His home office? Was this how these things were done? Or was she reading too much into it? The note was formal, yet personal. She pressed her phone to her chest, her mind racing with possibilities. She confirmed her attendance, then spent the next 2 days caught between excitement and anxiety. Thursday evening arrived. Scarlett stood before her closet, hands shaking. She chose a forest green dress, elegant, hugging her curves without being too revealing. The neckline soft, sleeves 3/4 length. Her underwear was matching emerald lace, delicate, expensive, boosting her confidence. Her chestnut hair fell in loose curls, brushing her shoulders, while her lips bore a subtle hint of red. She drove out to a quiet, leafy neighborhood, her heart thudding. Michael's house was modern and airy, with tall windows glowing warm against the dusk. He greeted her at the door, dressed casually in fitted dark jeans and a light grey sweater, sleeves pushed up. She noticed how broad his shoulders were, how easily he moved, self-assured, yet inviting. "Scarlett, come in," he said, his voice lower and more relaxed than at their last meeting. Inside, the house was tastefully decorated. Art on the walls, plush rugs, a fireplace flickering. He led her into a sunken living room with a wall of glass opening onto a garden. The air was scented with something woody and spicy. His cologne, perhaps, or the candles burning nearby. "Would you like some wine?" he asked, holding up a bottle of deep red. "It's from a vineyard I visited last year. I've been saving it for a special occasion." She smiled, easing onto the soft leather sofa. "I'd love to try it." As he poured, they chatted. At first about her project, then about life in the city, travels, small confessions. He listened closely, refilling her glass as the sky outside turned dark. Scarlett felt herself relaxing, her laughter coming more easily, her cheeks flushing. At one point, as she leaned over the coffee table to pick up her glass, Michael reached out to steady it. Their fingers brushed. The contact was innocent, yet charged. "You seem more relaxed tonight," he said quietly, his eyes meeting hers. "I suppose I am," she answered, her voice softening. "It feels easier here." He sat closer, not quite touching. His gaze flicked to her lips, then back to her eyes. For a long moment, neither spoke. The tension between them was palpable. "May I?" he murmured, lifting a hand. She nodded, barely breathing. His fingers found the edge of her blazer, sliding it off her shoulders. The fabric slipped away, baring her arms, leaving her in the silk dress and emerald lace beneath. He trailed his hand along her shoulder, down her arm, pausing at her wrist. Her skin tingled everywhere he touched. Michael traced her jaw with the backs of his fingers, then gently tilted her chin. Their lips met, slow, exploratory, heat blossoming between them. Scarlett melted into the kiss, her hand finding his chest. His lips were soft, but insistent, moving from her mouth to her cheek, then lower, brushing her collarbone through the thin fabric. He pulled her closer, his hand resting on her waist, fingers splaying over her hip. Scarlett shivered, her breath catching as his thumb grazed the side of her breast, never fully touching, always just at the edge of boldness. She arched toward him, craving more. For a long moment, they simply breathed together, savoring the closeness. He broke the kiss, searching her eyes. "If you want me to stop." She shook her head, the words caught in her throat. He smiled, warm, reassuring. He kissed her again, then slowly pulled back, settling beside her on the sofa, his arm still around her. They sat in silence for a while, the tension shifting into something softer, deeper. "I want to help your project, Scarlett," he said at last. "But I also want to know you, the woman behind the idea." She smiled, feeling oddly powerful and exposed all at once. "You already know more than most." He squeezed her hand. "I hope to learn even more." It was late when Scarlett left, her shoes in one hand, jacket slung over her arm. Michael walked her to her car, his hand lingering at the small of her back. "Let me know when you get home," he said. "I want to make sure you're safe." She promised she would. As she drove home, the city lights blurred, her skin still tingling where he had touched her. The emerald lace pressed against her body was a reminder of what had happened, and what almost had. Sam was already asleep when she slipped in, careful not to wake him. She lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling, her mind alive with the memory of Michael's lips, his voice, the intoxicating taste of wine and want. She drifted into dreams, vivid, confusing, impossible to untangle from desire or ambition. She wondered which would win in the end. The next morning, Scarlett felt changed. She noticed herself in the mirror, her hair tousled, her skin flushed, her eyes brighter than usual. She wore Michael's jacket over her simple dress as she made coffee, smiling at the secret only she knew. Sam wandered in, yawning. "You're up early." "Couldn't sleep," she said, her voice light. He kissed her cheek, oblivious, then left for work. Scarlett stood in the kitchen for a long time after he'd gone, her fingers tracing the emerald lace beneath her dress, her mind still in that dim living room with Michael. Late that afternoon, another email arrived. "Thank you for last night. You are remarkable. I'll be in touch soon. No promises, no assurances, just an echo of the night before." Scarlett exhaled, her heart light and trembling. For the first time, she realized she wanted more than just the grant. She wanted the thrill, the danger, the possibility that something in her life was about to change forever. Days slipped by, each one stretching longer as Scarlett waited for news. She forced herself to focus on work and family, but her mind was always elsewhere, replaying the evening at Michael's, the taste of red wine, the memory of his mouth at her throat. When the notification finally arrived, it was late on a Monday afternoon. "Congratulations! You are a finalist for the Horizon Grants. You are invited to a closed reception and project showcase for all finalists this Friday evening. Dress code: cocktail. The event will be attended by the committee, sponsors, and select previous winners." Scarlett felt her knees weaken. She read the email 3 times, barely believing it. She had made it to the finals. Her dream was within reach. Her chest swelled with pride, then with nerves. She wondered if Michael had had a hand in this, or if it was her work alone that had carried her this far. At home, Sam noticed her distracted mood. He tried to draw her out over dinner, but Scarlett's answers were vague, her laughter half-hearted. She watched him, her gentle, reliable husband, glasses sliding down his nose as he scrolled through his phone. She wondered if he would ever sense the shift in her heart, the quiet spark Michael had kindled. Friday arrived. Scarlett dressed carefully, choosing a slim pearl-white cocktail dress that hugged her waist and flared at her hips. She wore a matching lace set beneath, strapless bra and high-cut panties, both delicate and barely there. Her body looked and felt different to her now. Her curves more pronounced, her skin more sensitive, as if every nerve had been awakened. She styled her hair in soft waves, letting them tumble over her shoulders, and kept her makeup simple but striking. Silver earrings and a pair of nude heels completed the look. She glanced at her reflection, tall, graceful, her brown eyes shining with anticipation, and smiled, feeling both proud and nervous. The reception was held at a rooftop lounge, the city glittering beneath a velvet sky. Inside, the crowd was a blur of elegant dresses and dark suits, soft music threading through the air. Waiters moved quietly among the guests, with sparkling drinks and small plates. Scarlett checked in, her heart pounding, and scanned the room. She saw Michael almost immediately. He stood by the balcony, speaking with two women, one older, with white blonde hair and a sharp suit, and the other young, strikingly beautiful, in a midnight blue dress. He caught Scarlett's gaze and smiled, subtle, almost private. She started toward him, but was intercepted by a petite brunette with a badge marked finalist. "Hi, you must be Scarlett. I'm Amanda Wells." The woman's eyes sparkled with energy. "This is wild, isn't it?" Scarlett smiled, introducing herself. "It's all a bit overwhelming." Amanda nodded, sipping her drink. "Tell me about it." "I met Michael last week, during the private tasting. He's intense, right?" Scarlett blinked, the words ringing in her ears. "You had a wine tasting with Michael?" Amanda grinned. "Yeah, he's very hands-on. Really makes you feel special. He told me I had a real chance, you know? Said he liked my energy." She winked. "I think he likes to mix business with a little pleasure." Scarlett felt a coldness creep up her spine. She looked over at Michael, who was now laughing at something the other woman said. Amanda's words echoed in her mind. He's very hands-on. The private tasting, the careful attention, the subtle touches. She wasn't the only one. A dizzy feeling swept through her. Part humiliation, part anger, part something else. Envy, perhaps, or just the sharp sting of disappointment. Later, in the restroom, Scarlett locked herself into a stool and pressed her hands to her burning cheeks. She tried to compose herself, but her mind was a swirl of memories. She remembered Michael's lips, the gentle pressure at her jaw, the heat of his palm at her waist. She remembered how he'd looked at her, as if she was the only woman in the world. Now, that moment felt tainted, shared, no longer unique. She closed her eyes, letting the sound of running water drown out her thoughts. For a moment, she pressed her fingers over her lips, reliving the way his kiss had lingered, the promise in his touch. Then, with a silent, frustrated sigh, she straightened her dress and left the restroom, her heart still pounding. The showcase itself was a blur, Scarlett presented her project to the committee, fielded questions, and accepted congratulations from strangers. Michael approached her only briefly, his smile easy, his hand light at her elbow. "Good luck, Scarlett. You deserve it," he whispered. She wanted to ask him if he'd said the same to Amanda. But she said nothing, only nodded, lips pressed tight. The evening wore on. She watched Amanda across the room, laughing with Michael and another finalist. She saw how his eyes lingered, how his hand touched Amanda's arm, the small private smiles. Scarlett felt the ache of jealousy, hot and uncomfortable, bubbling beneath the surface. When it was finally time to go, she stepped outside into the cool night air, letting the city lights blur around her. That night, at home, Scarlett stood under the shower, letting the hot water beat down on her shoulders. She tried to wash away the memories, the confusion, the hunger and anger twisting inside her. She closed her eyes and let her hands drift down her body, tracing the shape of her hips, her thighs, her stomach. She remembered Michael's breath against her skin, the way his mouth had moved along her collarbone, how he had whispered her name. She pressed her forehead against the tile, a quiet moan escaping her lips. But the memory now mingled with something sharp, a sense of betrayal, the knowledge that he had touched Amanda in the same way, that she was not special, just one in a line of women who had been dazzled by his charm and attention. She wanted to hate him, to forget him, but her body still trembled with need, and her heart still twisted with longing. She stepped out of the shower, wrapping herself in a towel. In the mirror, her reflection looked back, flushed, eyes bright, hair damp and wild. She wasn't sure who she saw anymore. Scarlett lay awake that night, listening to the steady rhythm of Sam's breathing beside her. She reached for her phone, scrolling through the photos from the event. There was one of Michael, laughing with the other finalists. She stared at it for a long time, torn between anger and desire. She knew she had to confront him, to find out the truth. Had she been just another finalist to be seduced? Or was there something real in the way he looked at her? A plan began to form. She would go back. She would ask him, face to face. She needed answers, and she would not be afraid to demand them. As the city slept around her, Scarlett closed her eyes, her resolve hardening. She would not let herself be just another story, forgotten, discarded. She would fight for what she wanted, whatever the cost. And as she drifted into uneasy dreams, she wondered, would she ever truly know what had happened between them? Or was the truth something she could never fully grasp? Scarlett spent the weekend restless and unsettled. She kept replaying Amanda's words, every gesture from Michael at the reception, every smile he directed not just at her, but at other women. The victory of being a finalist was now tangled with uncertainty and a new, burning curiosity. What exactly was the game being played here? On Sunday evening, she wrote Michael a short, direct message. "I'd like to see you before the results are announced. There are things I need to understand." Scarlett. She expected him to delay, to push her off, but his response came quickly. "My place, tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. Wear something daring. She stared at the words for a long time, her breath catching. The bluntness was new. Maybe he sensed that she was no longer playing the ingenue. Maybe he wanted her to confront him, to force the next move. Or maybe, she thought bitterly, he enjoyed the power. Monday evening found Scarlett standing in front of her mirror, studying her reflection. She chose a black silk dress, cut low in the back, skimming her body like a second skin. Her lingerie was midnight blue, almost invisible beneath the fabric, the lace tracing her hips and lifting her breasts. She let her hair fall loose, waves tumbling over her shoulders, framing her face in shadow. Her makeup was bold, smoky eyes, dark red lips. She looked dangerous, mysterious, exactly as she intended. She arrived at Michael's house just before 7, her heart beating in her throat. The sky was heavy with clouds, the air thick with the promise of rain. Michael opened the door almost as soon as she knocked, as if he'd been waiting for her. He wore a white shirt open at the neck, sleeves rolled, dark trousers. The look in his eyes was different tonight. Serious, watchful. He didn't smile as she stepped inside. "Scarlett," he said quietly, stepping aside to let her enter. "You look incredible." She didn't thank him, didn't return the compliment. She walked past him, her heels clicking on the hardwood, moving to the living room without waiting for permission. She felt his gaze on her, heavy and appraising. He poured them each a glass of wine. But tonight there was little of the playful charm he'd shown before. They sat across from each other, the tension thick. "So, you wanted to talk?" Michael said finally, his voice low. Scarlett held his gaze. "I spoke with Amanda Wells. She told me about her private tasting. You told her she had a real chance, that she was special. How many other women have you invited here, Michael?" He didn't flinch. He set his glass down and leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "You're not naive, Scarlett. You know how these things work. Connections matter. Chemistry matters. Sometimes it helps the best projects rise to the top. Or the most willing women?" She shot back, her voice sharp. He shook his head, a faint smile at the corner of his mouth. "You think too little of yourself, or maybe too little of me." Scarlett set her glass aside, anger and desire battling within her. She rose, pacing in front of the window, watching the darkening sky. "Is this all a game to you?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Do you just collect women with dreams and promises?" He stood, moving closer, stopping just a breath away. "You came here for answers, Scarlett. The truth is, you caught my eye because you're different. I won't apologize for being attracted to talented, beautiful women. But you..." He paused, reaching out to touch her cheek. "You have more power than you realize." She looked up at him, her heart pounding. "You could make this so easy for me, Michael. You could decide everything." He smiled, slow and enigmatic. "I could, but I won't. Not yet." He stepped behind her, his hands lightly brushing her bare shoulders, then sliding down her arms. She shivered, feeling his breath at her ear. His fingers traced the line of her spine, just above the silk. "Do you want this because of the project, or because of me?" he murmured. Scarlett's breath caught. She turned to face him, her body pressed to his. "Right now, I can't tell," she whispered. He kissed her then, hungry, searching, their lips meeting in a rush of pent-up desire. His hands traced her sides, pulling her close, their bodies aligning in perfect tension. The black silk slipped under his fingers, revealing more skin, more warmth. She reached for his shirt, tugging it loose, her palms running over the hard plane of his chest. For a moment, nothing else existed. Just the press of mouths, the mingling of breath, the ache of wanting and not knowing. Then Michael pulled back, holding her face in his hands. "There's still time to walk away," he said, voice rough. "But if you stay," Scarlett answered by pulling him to her again, their bodies melting together in a tangle of silk and skin. The storm broke outside, rain lashing the windows as inside. Heat and thunder built between them, urgent and unstoppable. Afterward, they lay in the dim light, the world reduced to breath and heartbeat. But Scarlett's mind was not quiet. She turned to him, tracing circles on his chest. "What happens now?" she asked softly. Michael's eyes glinted, unreadable. "Now you wait. The decision is out of my hands. The board votes tomorrow." She nodded, knowing he was lying, or at least not telling the whole truth. The next evening was the final announcement. Scarlett dressed with care, in a dark emerald dress that shimmered as she moved. Her underwear was simple, black silk, as if to remind herself she was strong, prepared. At the event, the air was charged with anticipation. Finalists mingled, but everyone was watching Michael, and the committee chair, and each other. Amanda was there, her dress red as a warning. She caught Scarlett's eye and smiled, a secret, bitter smile. The chair called the room to attention. Michael stood at her side, inscrutable. The announcement came, and the winning project was not Scarlett's. For a moment, everything froze. The applause, the laughter, the congratulations all seemed distant, unreal. Scarlett watched as Amanda was named the winner, watched Michael's face for a sign, a wink, a smile. He only nodded once, ever so slightly, and then turned away. Scarlett stood alone by the window as the party swirled on, her glass untouched. What had it all meant? Was she simply another player in his game? Or had she lost because she tried to play by his rules? She looked for him once more before leaving, but he was gone. Outside, the rain had stopped, but the world felt different. The shadows seemed deeper, the answers farther away. Scarlett wrapped her coat around her and walked into the night, the city lights flickering like promises she no longer trusted. She had wanted the truth. Now she was left only with questions. The city was still and cold as Scarlett returned home, her mind a haze of defeat and anger. The night's events clung to her skin like a bitter perfume. She had risked everything, her heart, her pride, her marriage. For what? Not even the prize. Not even the closure she thought she'd gain from facing Michael. Sam was already in bed, reading. He looked up as she entered their bedroom, his gentle eyes searching her face. "How did it go?" Scarlett forced a smile, shrugging off her coat. "It was not what I expected." He closed his book, watching her as she undressed, letting her emerald dress slip to the floor. Her simple black silk underwear felt different tonight, more like armor than anything alluring. She caught her reflection in the mirror. A beautiful woman, yes, but one shadowed by doubt and longing. She slipped under the covers beside her husband, who kissed her forehead and held her, warm and silent. Scarlett lay awake, listening to the quiet rise and fall of his breath. Her thoughts a storm of questions. How had she let herself be drawn so far from everything she'd once valued? Was her ambition to blame, or Michael's magnetic pull? Or was it the hollow ache that had begun long before? In the spaces of her marriage she never dared to name. The next morning she made coffee and watched the sun climb pale over the rooftops. She checked her email again and again, but there was nothing from Michael, nothing from the grant committee. Just a handful of congratulations from other finalists and one short, oddly formal message from Amanda. "No hard feelings, right? I'm sure you'll win the next one." Amanda. Scarlett closed her laptop, her lips pressed thin. She would not reply. The memory of Amanda's smile, so bright and hollow, burned in her mind. As the week dragged on, Scarlett's bitterness turned to resolve. She had seen something in Michael's eyes the night of the loss. A flicker, a warning, perhaps even regret. She remembered his words. "Now you wait. The decision is out of my hands." Yet she had seen how the committee watched him, how Amanda's victory felt scripted, not earned. A thought began to grow in her mind, a suspicion she could not ignore. What if the process was not just unfair but rigged? What if Michael's games were just the tip of something larger? Something rotten at the heart of the committee? Scarlett searched through her emails, reviewing every exchange she had with Michael and the other board members. She noticed patterns. Similar phrases in the messages Amanda and another finalist, Julia, had forwarded her. Identical invitations. Timing that was almost too convenient. Her anger simmered into action. That evening, she sat at her kitchen table, phone in hand, listening to a recording she'd made of her last private conversation with Michael. She'd kept it for her own sake, not planning to use it, just a way to hold on to the reality of their encounter, should she ever doubt herself. The conversation was intimate, but also revealing. Michael had hinted at committee favoritism, even named one or two board members who could be convinced if the right people asked. Scarlett edited the recording, removing anything personal, and included only what hinted at manipulation. She sent it, along with her own written statement and screenshots of the committee's oddly worded emails, to the Horizon Foundation's main office. She did not expect much, but at least she would know she had tried. Days passed. The air cleared. Her mood lifted, as if some invisible weight had finally rolled off her shoulders. She focused on her project, applying for smaller grants, reconnecting with her students. Sam noticed the change, but did not question it. Instead, he drew her closer in their quiet evenings, their lives returning to a simple rhythm. One sunny morning, an official-looking envelope arrived in her mailbox. The letter inside was brief but direct. Dear Miss James, thank you for bringing your concerns to our attention. An internal investigation has revealed irregularities in the recent grant competition, and certain committee members have been suspended, pending further review. We are pleased to inform you that your project has been selected for full funding under a special initiative. Sincerely, Horizon Foundation. Scarlett sat stunned, her hands trembling. Relief, shock, and a new, tentative joy flooded through her. She read the letter again, then again, as if she could not trust her eyes. Later that afternoon, her phone rang. It was a new contact at the Horizon Foundation, formal but warm. We're very sorry for the way things were handled, the woman said. Your proposal was always among the best. We hope this support helps you realize your vision. Scarlett thanked her, heart in her throat, tears pricking at her eyes. That evening, she sat on the veranda in her robe, bare legs curled under her. The sun was setting in streaks of gold and rose. In her hand was a glass of wine, the same vintage Michael had served her on that first night, though now it tasted different. Less forbidden, more her own. Sam came out and sat beside her. You look happy, he said, brushing a strand of hair from her cheek. She smiled, leaning into him. I am. We got the grant. My project is happening. He hugged her tightly. You did it. Scarlett gazed at the city lights blooming against the dusk. Yes, she said softly, her voice steady. I did. A breeze lifted the hem of her robe, warm against her bare skin. She sipped her wine, her thoughts drifting over all she had risked and all she had learned. Not just about ambition or desire, but about her own strength. For a moment she closed her eyes, recalling the thrill and the danger, the secrets and the lies. She remembered Michael's touch, the heat and the heartbreak. She remembered Amanda's bitter smile, the sting of betrayal, the satisfaction of justice. But mostly, she felt a calm certainty rising inside her, a sense of wholeness she had never known before. In the end, the truth had set her free, not just from Michael's web, but from her own doubts. Her story, she realized, was hers alone, not a victim, not just a player in someone else's game, but a woman who had found her voice, her courage, and a kind of happiness that needed no permission. As the last light faded, Scarlett leaned back and let the evening wrap around her. She was ready for what came next, whatever it might be.